Hello friends, welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're making a loaded baked potato with beef. So to start off with, when you buy your extra large baking potatoes, you're going to need to wash these to make sure they're clean and you don't have any debris on it from wherever you bought it from or whatever bag it came out of. Once you do this, you're going to want to take it, put it on a lined baking pan, which is going to go into whichever oven you're going to use. And we're going to poke holes in this with a fork. So that way, when we put olive oil on the outside of this, it'll soak in and give it a little bit of flavor, but it's also going to help it bake up and have a good texture on the outside of the potato. So make sure that when you're poking the holes, you go all the way around all of the sides, corners, bottom, top, everything of your potato. And then once you get that done, we're going to coat it with olive oil. Now, if you're fixing this in an air fryer to bake it, you're going to go at 400 degrees for 50 minutes, or in a conventional oven, 425 for 55 to 60 minutes, depending on how big your potato is, because mine are quite large. And once those are in baking, we're going to start making extra ingredients for this. So you're going to need a smaller piece of beef, just enough to where you could cut up about maybe a cup and a half worth of strips, because we're going to do 2 potatoes out of what I'm doing right here, and from what I'm using, there's plenty to coat 2 of these. So once you get your meat onto a cutting board, go ahead and cut it into thin slices, and I do mean thin, they don't have to be thick whatsoever. And we're going to cut through all of the beef that we have until we get it all completely cut up. So once we get this into a bowl, we're going to add some seasoning and let it sit for a minute. And what we're going to add to this is basically just a shaking of some garlic powder and some steak seasoning. And it doesn't even have to be a lot. It could probably be less than a teaspoon. You just want to get a coating on the outside of it to give it some flavor. And once we get our seasonings onto this and it's set for a few minutes, and I'd say just a few minutes, long enough for it to really just absorb into the meat a little bit, we're going to move this to a pan where we're going to cook it. Now I'm adding a little olive oil to my pan, and we're going to cook this until the beef is done. We're not going for pink or anything like that. I just want it completely cooked and well done. So the good thing is while your potato is baking, you have plenty of time to get the meat cooked and set aside, so that way it's ready when you're ready to assemble. And as you can see, my beef has cooked up quite nicely. Just a reminder, when you're cutting up beef, sometimes when you cook it, it does shrink a little bit, so just compensate for that. So when our potato is back and we split it open, we are going to line the top with some tabs of butter, which basically you're going to do like tablespoon sized bits of this and put like 4 or 5 of them on, depending on how many you want, because if your potato is extremely large, you might need more. And then on top of this, we are adding a sprinkling of salt, a sprinkling of pepper, a little bit of white pepper, some onion powder, and these are our seasonings. Now you don't have to put a lot of this on, it's just basically shake it over till you see some of it coming out, and then you're done. We're not putting a whole lot of this on because we don't want this to be totally loaded with spices. And now once you have your seasonings in, we are going to put a layer of mozzarella across the top of this, and basically we're talking just grabbing enough in your hand to put across till you cover the whole top. And then we're going to go with some cheddar, which I was using mild cheddar. You can use whichever type you'd like, and just put a layer of that because we just want a layer of cheese here. Now on top of the cheese, we're going to add some sour cream, and basically you're going to use probably anywhere from 2 to 3 tablespoons worth, and just make sure your sour cream is kind of distributed across the top of the potato. And yes, my hands were clean when I did that. And then once we get to this point, we're going to bring in some of the steak, the beef that we made, and put on top of it and just layer it across to where there's a good even piece of beef wherever there's an opening on top of the potato. And then once you get that completely on top, we're going to come back in with cheese again. And then we're going to do some mozzarella on top of this, enough to coat the whole top. And then we're going to do a little bit more of the cheddar on top of that. And once you get your cheese completely on top of this and you have a good even layer of it, you're going to have to pop this into the microwave for a good like 30 seconds to melt your cheese. So that way it actually melts down, oozes in. And when it is done, it looks something like this. And all your cheese and everything is melted together. And this is such a great dish to eat, because this actually could be a meal by itself or a side dish, whichever way you'd like to do it. I hope you liked this recipe. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out my cookbooks, which are available on Amazon and bookstores worldwide. The first cookbook is all about everyday cooking, and the second is about baking. Have a great day.